This is All About Home Construction, and here's your hosts, Terry Cannell-Beck and Randy Blake.
That's right. Good morning, Randy.
Morning, Terry, and everybody out there.
Happy Saturday, buddy.
Happy Saturday to you.
That's it, Randy Blake, obviously at the Rock and Roll Kitchen on a Saturday morning. Good morning. How's
our alternative recording studio?
I love it, man. How's the VFW looking this morning for breakfast?
Oh, we've got it out, ready to rock and roll.
Sweet. What's on?
I just had to turn the rock and roll off because I'm on my phone.
Fair. What's on the menu this morning?
Well, we eggs, bacon, sausage, biscuits, gravy, chicken, pancakes, grits. So we can now. The grits are vegetarian grits because they're made out of corn.
Yep. There you go.
And we got hot coffee. How about that?
Sweet. Hey, for the grits, do we have cheese to go on it, or do we have sugar to go on it? Because you can go one of two ways here, buddy.
Well, we got sugar if you want it.
I'm a good sugar. I'm telling you, that's the best way to eat grits. I'm sorry.
And we got real butter, so.
Woo! I love it, man. That's awesome. And doors just now opening, basically, and people starting to roll in, I'm sure. So that's pretty cool, and I'm glad that,
got 3 plates going right now.
Love it, dude. Love it. 1 minute in, and people are already there. So that's awesome. And, so we got plenty of time. If you're listening to us, head on over there on Saturday morning and get you a good Saturday breakfast. And you can't, you can't beat it, right?
Yep. Kids under 6 are free. 6 to 12 is $6. So
sweet. There you go. So you can't get that anywhere else, man. Even fast food, you're going to spend close to that.
And you know what? We have eggs.
Eggs. Well, that's worth your money right there.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, this whole egg price thing. Don't get me started on that. So.
You can't do nothing about that. Now we're up to 145 million chickens been euthanized so far.
I saw that, and yeah, it's just it's rough. It's rough.
Well, I seen a picture the other day of a lake, and it was up north somewhere, and all the ducks were dead.
Oh, really? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah.
That to me, like, that's a tough one. Like when they get rid of all the chickens, like if you could save the ones who like are work through it, that's how you get resistance to the virus. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, you're talking about food sources, and so it's
correct.
I get it.
And they already had one person die from the bird flu from a dairy.
Yeah,
because they never had it transferred over from a bird to a mammal.
Yep.
So now it went to it might have been a Holstein cow, but they showed a Holstein cow.
Sure.
And but then the worker caught it. And a lot of people don't realize that the dairy is clean when it comes to milking, but you're dealing with animals that poop and pee a lot.
Exactly.
And but they try to make it as healthy as possible.
Sure. And
if you hadn't ever worked in a dairy, you ought to go try it for a week.
I've never worked in an actual dairy, but I've milked cows, and that alone is not worth it. So I know in a dairy is a lot more production and some fancier equipment and sterilization, but
I showed a picture the other day of a dairy carousel.
Yep.
And it held 80 cows at one time.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Just spinning right around. By the time they're done and take a little trip, they're ready to roll back out. So it's crazy.
And what really bothers me about that is you got so many people that talk about animal cruelty and stuff. What farmers do.
Right.
Farmers don't try to be cruel.
No, I mean you got to take care of your cows and whatever, right? Your animals, because that's your livelihood, right? I mean, it's not. That's it's just like. I mean, I don't want to compare it to equipment because they're animals, but you don't go throwing your tools on the ground either, right? Like you take care of what you need to get your job done, and in that aspect, they're the same. And a good most farmers that I know, actually, I don't know of any that purposely hurt their animals for sure. So
Well, I wouldn't. Every cow we had a name. And
Yep.
people laugh at us, but it. I don't know how to say it, but I talk to my animals just like I did people. And it's almost like they understand you.
yep,
And but then you got like Harley. See, she was a bottle fed calf, and she was always the first one in the lot, and the last one out.
yep, like a little puppy, right?
Yeah, and the thing about it is, she was a 1,500 puppy, and if she didn't want to go, she'd try to knock you down. So, but you could walk up into the field and talk to her, and she'd stand right there, and you could pet her and rub her neck. And
That's awesome.
when we sold her, she weighed a ton.
Nice. That's
She
awesome.
was hard to get in the trailer and hard to get out.
Yeah, well, that's the way they roll. That's a cow for you. So,
But to give you an idea, about animal cruelty, that I get real frustrated on Facebook about this. 20 to 22 people are killed annually in the United States every year.
yep,
And probably, I read an article one time that said most farmers are killed by pet bulls.
I believe that. Yep.
And so, regardless if people think we're mean to them, we're not. But golly, I've had my ribs broke and everything else.
Yep. I've
But
seen
you
it.
still got to be good to them.
Yep. For sure. So, well, good stuff. So, how's the construction world been treating you this week?
Little better. There's a lot of people out there that's not got any money from FEMA
Right.
or partial money from flood insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hurting everybody, which is in hurts us contractors because, golly, I've got over $600,000 in estimates out there.
Yep.
And
Yep. Just waiting.
only got about $16,000 in work.
Right. Waiting to pull that trigger, but they can't until they get the money. I know.
Correct. And but it's really frustrating out there, and people need help. And there's still people in tents down around Asheville and stuff.
Right. Yep.
And Adam came in last weekend, and he said the news out in Oklahoma City portrays this storm totally different than what we see here.
Really?
Yeah.
Just blows over it, huh?
Yeah. Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Kentucky they got flooded out?
Right. Yep.
Yes, sir. And you know what? FEMA didn't help them at all.
Right. Well,
They turned everybody down.
Say earlier this month, that northern north of us in Kentucky, Virginia area especially, they got another round of floods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And but a little history here in North Carolina. Everybody talks about the 40 flood.
Right.
And but farmers were allowed to clean their creeks, get the trees cut back from them.
Yep.
And now we're starting back in a cycle, where they want to have trees along the creek banks and stuff, but they're not going to allow you to get the fallen trees out of the creek.
Right.
So in the fall, we got leaves that builds up, catches other limbs and stuff. So now you've got a dam that's happening.
Exactly.
So when these rains comes, you've got quite a bit of water that's built up behind this dam.
Right.
And
right. I get
people
it.
don't think about that.
Well, and again, like we've just seen so much water shift directions and new paths and stuff like that. I think the next 2 years is going to be interesting if any like significant what would be potential flash floods, I think are definitely going to be a more of an impact than they have been in the last couple of years. How's that? And,
Well, they still got us under a drought.
Well, today we're under a red flag warning, which is, if you don't know what a red flag warning is, listeners, it's one of those things that's basically watch out for wildfires. It's don't burn anything today because it's dry. There's low humidity, and the winds are picking up. So, it's we've already called it once for the wildfires. There was one over in Tennessee like this week or so. So it's like it's going to be happening, and that's the scary part.
Well, this January 30th, we've had 75 wildfires in North Carolina.
Yep. And the majority of those in the western half. So.
Yeah, best I can tell.
Yep.
And but let's see here. I'm bringing up a map. They're showing a lot of fires in Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina and North Carolina.
Good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, Randy, why don't we take our first break? And when we get back, I got a guest for you. I got a surprise guest for you. And then we'll jump back on and we'll get right into it. Thanks for listening to us. All about home construction. We'll be right back. The Boone VFW Post 7031 is looking at making improvements to their Veterans Memorial Wall, and you can help. Here's Chuck.
We could do engraved bricks to cover the memorial. It's in honor of the veterans who have served and some that have given their all for our country. And that's the one thing that we feel as the VFW that we can do to honor those who have come before and those who are even present today.
But Chuck, what do we have to do to participate?
You don't have to be a war veteran in order to be a part of this memorial. It's just that you served.
What is the cost?
That fee is only $50, but it's a lifetime investment.
If you would like to help participate by honoring a family member, a friend, or a loved one, you can contact the Boone VFW Post 7031 at 828-264-9570. They are on VFW Drive just off of State Farm Road here in Boone. Thank you for all that have served. That's right, all about home construction. Thanks for listening to us. Good morning, and Randy Blake at the Rock and Roll Kitchen this morning. You got lots of people in there, Randy?
Yeah, got 4 people eating.
Sweet. So plenty of room, plenty of food for more. Get on over there at the VFW here in Boone, and yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Randy. Well, we have a surprise guest for you. I threw this one on you last minute because when you have teenagers still, even though they're not living in the house, they're still teenagers. I think they'll always be teenagers. So Meggin decided to come in this morning and talk to me, and so I was like, well, since you came in, now you got to talk to Randy Blake. And so Meggin in the studio this morning. And but I thought this would be a great idea because Randy, when we so much of what we do, we just assume that a lot of our listeners have a house or live in a house. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they've got some experience, I guess is where I'm trying to go with that. And got to thinking, like, what about young people just starting out? Whether they own their own home, whether they're getting there, but just the fact that they're living alone. Like living in a house now, and they no longer have parents to take care of things for them. And so Meggin's got some questions for you, man. How you feel about that? You ready for the challenge? Oh,
yeah. I mean, golly.
So
I love the challenge.
Right? Well, Meggin, you back in the day, you used to be too afraid to talk on the radio. You going to talk this morning?
I guess I have to.
Yeah, she's got to.
Well, you go have to get a little closer to the mic because I can barely hear you.
So, but yeah, Meggin's in the studio. All right, Meggin, fire off. What's number 1?
All right. How do you shut off the water, gas, and electricity in your house?
All right. Well, has your daddy taught you where the water line is and the panel box is and where the gas comes in?
Well, I know where the electricity is. I don't think I've ever touched water outside of trying to get inside the well box.
Well, there should be a valve in the house close to your hot water heater, and for your water intake. But remember one thing: when you turn your water off, turn your hot water heater off too.
So they're not.
And generally, everything like your gas line, your water line, stuff like that, are all in the same location. And, most youngins don't know where they are. So it is important for homeowners to show their children where they are in case there is an emergency. There is a code that says if your panel box is more than 5 foot away from your meter can on the outside, then there has to be a main disconnect put out there. So that's two different areas that you can cut your power off. Now, if you're have an oil furnace and you only got a 250-gallon drum out there, your valve is going to be on that.
Cool. All right, ready for the next one?
All right. Did I answer your questions?
Yeah, pretty well, actually.
Good, I'll try.
All right. How do you safely use and maintain a fireplace or wood stove?
It's my favorite one. Now
well, first off, need to make sure you got a smoke alarm in your house. Okay? And like my wood stove I have in the basement, you're always going to get a little smoke from your wood stove. There's nothing you can do about that when you're loading it and stuff. But make sure that your stove is totally out before you take your ashes out.
And I have seen that. I had a neighbor years and years ago, about going on 20 years ago at this point, that was cleaning out his ashes and put it in a plastic bucket. And it caught the house on fire. I mean, it was just that heat, and you'd be surprised at how much those coals and those ashes, how much heat they hold, and for how long they hold it too. And it only takes one little ember.
Think about California. The fire's being started by embers.
Right.
Because the other day, I let my stove set for 2 days.
Yep. With
nothing in it, and I still had some hot embers in it that was down in the ashes.
Yep.
So, and I have a peck bucket, which is, that I use, and I put all the ashes in it, and then I set it outside, and where there was no way the wind could blow any ashes out of it.
Right.
And I let it set for another 2 days before I dumped them out.
Yep.
And, as long as you don't use any adverse wood products in it, that wood ash is actually very good for your garden.
Oh, it is great. Yeah, it's great for it. And I've done the same thing. And just for added caution, especially when I had the kids around, is I would douse it with water too. The bucket once I got it filled up. But that makes a big slimy, like almost concrete too, if you're not careful when you start adding water to it.
Well, believe it or not, when you add water to wood ash, you create nitric acid.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's extremely strong.
Yep. No, I get that. Of course, I was always outside, but no, yeah, I you can smell it. It's for sure. So, but yeah, that's cool stuff. Of course, if you're old school, you can save those ashes and then you can make a little trough for it, and you can catch the lye that comes off of it. Make some soap.
Correct. One thing that they use that wood ash for. And lye to take the hide off the hair, the hair off the hide.
Yeah, that's the way back in the day that everybody made their own soap at home. You take it, you get the you soak the. You let the rainwater soak the ashes. You collect the water, and you can render it down. And then when you slaughter your hogs, you render down the fat, and make lard. And you mix the lard and the lye together, and now you have soap. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
You would know how to make soap out of ash.
Hey, I can't say I've ever made it. I've seen it done. It's on my bucket list though.
That doesn't shock
me. I don't have them all. It's the Foxfire books.
Oh, I know. We've been talking about the Foxfire books, and it's like that's another thing on my bucket list. I'd love to have the whole set of Foxfire books.
Oh, I would too. I only have 4 of them.
Yeah.
And but I've stressed to my grandchildren over the years that they need to look at it.
Yep.
Well, think about how many years. Like 1976, Winston-Salem Journal had an article about Allegheny County. 60% of the county didn't have any electricity at that time.
Yep.
So they were still living off the grid and doing what they needed to do at farming.
Right.
But a 50th anniversary complete set now is $296.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're like $300-400 for a set right now, and
There's 17 books in it.
Yeah, but they're you talking about you don't even have to be the weird like prepper end of world kind of guy to enjoy those. There's some cool stuff in there, and one day I'm going to make my own black powder also. But that's another discussion for another day. All right, so and for the record, we've had a wood stove, and I would trust Meggin with working the wood stove. Don't let Meggin know that.
Didn't I try to start a fire outside right next to the house when I was like 6 and like actually succeed?
Well, you were 6.
Well, everybody's going to have to be careful, especially this spring with all the timber down.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a good time to be playing with fire for sure. So, all right, well, you got another one?
Yeah. On the subject of fire, though, what kind of fire extinguishers do you need, and where should you keep them?
Well, being that I'm a nerd, I guess, I think it's important to have one in the kitchen, a small one, because little grease fires can get out real fast, people not paying attention. But I always keep one in the basement, too, because I have a wood stove. And, that's cheap insurance for your house catching on fire, because once your house burns, you lose everything you have.
Yeah.
And people don't think about that. But just like, when my barn burned down, or not my barn, but my shop, I've never fully recovered over that, and which there was no way in the world a fire extinguisher would have put it out. But that was $30,000 worth of tools that got burned up, destroyed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's different classes of fire extinguishers: A, B, C, D, and Class A is like your ordinary, I guess you'd say, fire extinguishers. If when you get into specialties, like if you're working with a lot of flammable liquids, that's a Class B. Class C is like electrical stuff. So if you especially if you have a lot of electrical equipment around, but if you're looking at putting a one in the say around the electrical box or something, make sure it covers Class C. D and K are going to be more specialty things. The D is the metals, combustible metals. That's not going to be something you deal with a lot in like a residential home setting.
It is, but they have fire extinguishers that covers A, B, C. Dry chemical.
Yep, that's where I was getting ready to go. Is that they've got extinguishers that cover all of those. So again, if you're getting it, depends on where you're putting it. Look at that class rating, and make sure they stay charged. I think that when residential, if you're ever around commercial, for instance at the school, they come through. I don't know if it's every month, but they come through quite often, and check the fire extinguisher. I guess it is every month that they look at the little dial and they see, is it in the green or not?
Well, but not to interrupt you, but Amazon's got 2 of the Class A 10B, C dry chemical extinguishers for $34.20.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a cheap, I guess, for lack of a better word, insurance for it.
Well, the only thing I want to remind people, when you pull that handle on that thing, you got a lot of mess you got to clean up from that dry powder.
Sure, but if your house burns down and the fire department comes, even if they get it out, you got a lot more mess than what that fire extinguisher does.
Correct. That's a fact.
And I don't know if you've ever seen. Well, I'm sure you have, but I've been out where they still have it, the Emergency Fest. That's the last time I remember seeing it, where the fire department will have those tests and and experiments, and they let people see it. If you've ever seen that, when you go to for instance a grease fire, right? Like you got to be careful when you put it out, because you can't just blow it out. In other words, you got to watch it, because if you hit it wrong, the creates more flames than it does put it out. So, but you remember that?
Yeah, that's correct. One thing, remember these grease splatter deals?
Yep.
Those are awful bad to start a house fire, because people don't want to wash them out.
Yep.
Or their water's not hot enough to cut the grease out of them.
Exactly.
And so keep that in mind.
So every single, y'all were talking about this, and I remember this, every single year from like kindergarten to 8th grade, one day a year, we had a day where the fire department would come out and we got to play with the fire extinguishers and like the fire hoses.
Yep.
I just remembered that.
There you go. There you go. And fire blankets. People use fire blankets too to smother things out. So.
Have you
Oh yeah,
fought
that's
before?
cheap. Those work pretty good too.
Yep.
All right, next question.
They'll shut the air off.
Yep. Well, that's it. Kills the oxygen. Fire needs 3 things: fuel, heat, and oxygen. So.
Don't use water.
No. Yeah, and that sounds funny, right? Because like if I have a piece of wood on fire, I throw water on it, puts it out. When you start dealing with grease or any kind of like chemicals I mean, who would thought about bacon grease, right? As a young person, you probably don't. But Meggin has, because she's seen me pour it on campfires before. But you know, if you're not careful, grease will go up fast and hot. So yeah. All right, Meggin, what's your next question?
All right. Now, I'm actually genuinely curious on this one. What is the difference between load-bearing walls and non-load-bearing walls?
Okay. Now, a load-bearing wall is a wall that is built to transfer, let's say, the wall in the center of your house, okay? You've got a hallway, and that wall runs full length of your house. That wall is a load-bearing wall. That carries your roof load, okay, your ceiling joist. All right? Now, the walls intermittently, like a bathroom wall, that goes perpendicular to that wall, that's a non-load-bearing wall.
Okay.
Because in my house, you know, my house is 28 foot wide, but the wall offsets just a little off. You know, it's like 12 foot, but that is the load-bearing wall that carries all the way to the ground. Okay.
Okay.
And see, there's getting to be a lot of problems over the years with contractors that don't know the difference on how to transfer the loads all the way to a footer in your house.
So I mean, I think the basic answer to you know, just to like really simplify it more is if you have 2 walls, a load bearing wall, if you take it off or like just magically erase it, the houses will fall. A non-load bearing wall, if you magically erase it, the house will still stand. That's really the simplified version of what Randy said.
All right, here's just a random question. Could you get rid of a load-bearing wall?
If you're going to get rid of a load-bearing wall, then you're going to have to go to a beam.
Okay.
You can't totally 100% get rid of load-bearing. You got to transfer it somewhere.
Okay.
And you know, that leads us all to another rabbit hole, because you can use solid timber like a 4x8, but you can also use LVLs, power lamps, and but when you use manufactured beams, they'll do the engineering for you at the building supply. Okay, that's just something you just can't. I'm gonna take this wall out. I'm gonna put this beam in it, and it should hold. Because what you might think will hold will eventually deflect, and deflection means it's going to bend on you because of the load above it.
There we go.
To give you an idea, we did a house remodel in 2007, and the spans on the floor joists, because the house was built in 41, was so long that the tuba eights were starting to deflect, sag. Okay, and so we went in and we jacked it up. Adam couldn't even walk in the basement without hitting his head. That's how much the post had deteriorated, dry rotted.
Yep.
So we went in, we jacked it up. You don't ever use a level, you pull a string. That way you keep everything straight the way the house is. Believe it or not, the house was 1.5 inches out of level. And so we put these LVLs in, and 2 weeks later the LVL sagged. Okay? So we had to take the LVLs out and go back in with 1/2-inch steel flitch plates to carry the load.
Nice.
What they had on the house was they had the floor joists in the first floor. that were totally the opposite of the floor joists in the second floor. So see, they didn't transfer any loads correctly, but for the time there was no building inspector. And so what they had done is they'd went in and put 4x4 locust post in. But over the years, like I said, the bottom of the post was dry rotting, and it was allowing the ceiling to come down, or the floor joist to come down.
Yep. Well, there you go. Well, for those that are wondering what LVLs are, go look at the podcast all about home construction, because we talked about that last week. Tell you what, Randy, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
All right.
Thank you so much for being part of the All About Home Construction community. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you the best content, and we're thrilled to have you as a valued listener. We want to thank the winners of our sticker contest: Elizabeth, Diane, Mark, Linda, Scott, Chuck, Deb, William, Katie, and Colin. We hope you guys enjoy the prize, and for everyone out there, don't forget to share the podcast with your families and friends. We'll have more contests soon, so everyone can be a winner. That's right. All about home construction here on WATA. Randy Blake at the VFW at the Rock and Roll Kitchen. Been going for about 40 minutes now. And Randy, you got eggs. Maybe that alone is worth it, right?
I got eggs.
There you go. That alone is worth the price of admission. So, yeah, head on over there and get some nice bacon, sausage, chicken this morning, you said. Of course, pancakes and all the other good stuff.
I'm going to check a chicken. I mean, it's going pretty good.
Nice. I mean, when you got eggs, but mostly when you have bacon, why would you choose chicken over bacon? I don't understand people. Some people.
Hey, that's all right. You know what? There ain't nothing better than a chicken biscuit.
I don't know, man. Oh no, a good steak biscuit, or better yet, just a bacon and egg biscuit. Because anything that's got bacon on it makes it better. And I don't know. It's just weird if you don't know. Anyway. So get on over to the VFW, though. That's kind of where I'm going with this. All right, so Megan's still in here. She's got a couple more questions to wrap things up for you, Randy. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, Megan, go for it.
When is it better to call a pro instead of doing it for yourself?
Well, I guess it depends on your budget, see, is the biggest thing. And, well, I've been in the business 44 years, off and on, 37 years full-time. But, you learn a lot. And when you want to take it on yourself, it's like my grandson said, Papa, you can YouTube stuff.
Yep. Well,
the only problem with YouTubing is that's a professional showing you how to do it, but you got to learn from your mistakes, okay?
Right. Well, that's my thing is like, I'm a firm believer that, Megan, you can do anything that anybody else can do. Like, I'm a firm believer in that. I think, I think that, like, you're capable is what I'm trying to say. But it takes that knowledge, right? Like, especially when we're doing something like construction, there's a reason why 100 years ago we had apprentices. You didn't just, like, wake up one day and be like, I'm going to go build a house. I mean, you have to learn, you have to train. There's this education that goes along with it. So you can watch a YouTube video and get a quick 5-minute version of the education. But that's, think about this. If I'm making a video and I'm showing you how to do something, if something completely goes wrong and I look like a fool, do you think I'm going to put that out on a video? No. Right? Like, I'm going to put out a video that went well. Therefore, it's going to be something that looks easy because I have the experience. If I'm putting a video out, I will have the experience of whatever it is I'm trying to show you. So just because it looks easy on TV, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is just because it looks easy on TV doesn't mean it is easy. And education comes a long way. And that's why, like Randy said, like, when you find a professional, they've got that education and experience. And I would say, too, depending on the job, right, along with that comes the specialty tools. I mean, if, I can cut down. I used this example the other day with something else. And so I said, I can cut down a tree with an axe. I mean, it's possible, right?
Yep.
But it's a lot easier for me to go take these, these new. I know, Randy, you've seen these where the tractors or the loaders come in and they've got that little grappling that wraps around it and it cuts it for you. Like, it's a lot easier to cut down a tree using a machine than it is to cut it down.
You know what?
Axe.
It's like Deb used to get so mad at me going to the woods. I'd always go to the woods by myself. And she didn't like that at all. But I also took an employee one time. And he said, I'll stand right here. I said, no. You need to get on around the hill.
Yeah.
He said, well, I've seen you cut trees. You know what you're doing? I said, it's not the point of me knowing what I'm doing. It's the tree's going to do what it wants to do.
And you and I share a lot of those videos on Facebook to each other that shows the guy cutting down the limb or cutting down the treetop and the ladder kicking out from underneath him or something like that. And so, yeah, no.
Correct. And but that tree was about a 3-foot poplar tree, excellent tree. And there was one spur in it, about 1 inch long, that totally changed out. As that tree started to fall, it rotated on the stump, and it fell exactly where he was standing.
Yep.
Was standing until I made him move.
Exactly. Yep. So.
But there's also books out there that you can buy, okay, and to help you out.
Yep.
You just got to do your research. There's books on everything out there that's got to do with the construction industry. All right. But leave your heat and air to a professional. You don't want to take that on yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, besides changing the filters, okay. But make sure you get the right filter if you're going to change it yourself. You know, we went down to the beach here a few years ago. Big Dave Adams let us use his house mobile home, and he said, as long as you change my furnace filters, you can stay there for free. And I said, okay. Well, first thing I did, I went and checked on the filters, and they'd put a filter in that was too big so that the furnace wasn't actually filtering the air at all because it was coming around it. So I went and got the right filters to go back in.
Exactly. That's the key. So, all right. You got more?
One more.
One more. All right. One more, Randy. Here it comes. This is going to be the tough one, maybe.
All right.
All right.
If a house has started settling and can see the cracks in the walls or the floors, how do you know if it's just normal settling or if the foundation's like totally messed up?
Well, you'll see. All right. Have you ever been in a house where you see a crack at the bottom of the floor?
My father is saying yes.
Your uncle's house. You've been there. We've had that discussion.
Which one?
Where your baseboard's a half-inch off your floor. Okay. Now that's a pier given away, or a post dry rock, and so that's a giveaway. If you walk in the house and you notice that the floor is leaning, then you go outside and look at your foundation and see if you got cracks in it. Because you got a lot of guys that don't pay attention to backfill. You know, let's say we're going grading out for a house, okay? And you have a little section of your house that has backfill in it, and you go ahead and pour your footer, lay your block, and if that block's not solid, it might be 10, 15 years down the road, but that foundation is going to crack and start to settle, right? And that's where you get in the money, because you might have to hire a company to come in, excavate it out, put push piers in, and raise it back up. Well, the fix for that is that you can do is you can actually dig out till you get to solid ground. And when you get to solid ground, then you can backfill it with 3/4-inch clean gravel, pack it in, put your footer across the top of it. Now you don't have to worry about the fill depth. Okay?
All right.
There you go. All right. I think you got some more. Come on.
Bro, I just got off a 12-hour shift. I'm tired.
Oh. Did you hear that, Randy? Some people have to
I
work.
did.
Oh, my goodness. Being an adult and not being in high school anymore is tough. You have to work.
Oh, my gosh.
And I have to go back and do it tonight.
Oh,
and then the
no.
night after that.
Oh, no. I'll tell you what.
A procrastinator?
Yeah, like work, it's tough. All right, I'm going to take a last break, and we'll come right back right after this. Thanks for listening to us. Happy Saturday. Get over to the VFW. Obviously, by listening to this podcast, you see the value of All About Home Construction. Well, by joining our listener supporter community, you're not just tuning in, you're standing with us as we are able to support and fuel our passions of the construction industry. As a listener supporter, you'll enjoy exclusive perks, including hearing your name, or maybe even your business name, on our show. So please go to our Spotify website. The link will be in the show notes, and join. You can join for as little as $1 one-time fee, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you think you can afford. Every single penny helps to keep this show going as we can continue to grow and do lots more things. Thanks a lot. And again, more importantly, thank you for listening to this. That's right. All About Home Construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. Of course, Randy Blake over at the Rock and Roll Kitchen at the VFW. So good crowd coming in, it sounds like, Randy. And, yeah, good food going out as you speak, right?
Yeah.
So
being on the radio, I didn't get to talk to people much.
That's all right. That's all right. We only got 10 more minutes or so you'll get your chance. You'll get your chance. And
good, because I like trying to talk to everybody.
That's it. So, well, if you're a listener, get on over there and say hello to him. And I don't know. You know what? Maybe we'll do a challenge. The first person that goes over and gets a picture with Randy Blake and sends it to me, I'll send you a sticker, because I got some more stickers to give away. So that's what we'll do. We'll challenge a listener to send me a picture and of Randy Blake in the wild, and you get a free.
Well, you know, it'll have to be a good camera, because I'll break it.
Well, let's not ruin this now. It's a good contest until you said that.
I was looking here on Amazon. They have a complete do-it-yourself manual, family handyman.
Yeah.
Okay. For $25.95, and you know, I have no problem with people doing their own work.
Sure.
DIY, but the point of it is follow the codes. There isn't any codes on painting or drywall.
Right.
Or windows, but there are ways to do it, and that's what you want to try to do.
Yep.
It's the best you can.
Well, you know, and you had mentioned the YouTube stuff. My biggest worry when I watch these videos, because I watch them myself, you know, but we just assume that person is the expert also. So one thing I like to do is watch a couple different videos, you know, like, are they giving you the same information? But it's the same as I do when I do like my history research, right? Like, you don't just take the first thing you read as gospel, right? Like you got to verify it. So a lot of times I'll watch a couple of videos, several videos, and then kind of say, okay, well, this guy is completely different. So is that right or wrong, right?
Right.
But that goes back to what we were saying before, right? Like, watching these videos is just a faster, if you will, a shorter way of educating yourself. You're getting a quick education. And so it still goes back to experience and education, right? And so I think that's one of the biggest things when you're doing anything, you know, and even little things like, you know, Meggin and I were talking off the air, like, what about hanging up pictures or hanging up curtain rods or things like that, right? Like, what seems like an easy task and what really is an easy task sometimes, if you don't do it correctly, though, right? Like, if I go to hang a curtain rod, for instance, if I drill it in and the brackets in the wrong place, the curtain's going to fall and it's going to leave holes in my wall, right?
Correct. Well, you know, a good contractor will put blocking on each side of his windows.
Right. But you can't just assume that they
hold
did
the curtain rods
yeah.
to the wall.
You can't just assume that, and you know you've got to make sure that you make sure you hit a stud or make sure you hit a block, right? Like there's some of those things that you got to experience. I'm going back to the experience. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there's some education with that, right? Like, you can't just assume. You got to know that. Okay, well, yeah, like, I drilled that in, and I could feel it bite into the wood, or if not, I've used the correct anchor.
Well, to give you an idea, we used to put two by 8 blocks in the corner to hang, you know, curtain rods on.
Yep.
but then we learned that the insulation wasn't a stick in that section. So now we've gone to inlet 3/4 board in. So we got more of an R value behind that block.
Yep.
So there's a lot to think about when you're doing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, anyway, it's cool stuff, and just this is important information for anyone and everyone. But again, I'm glad she was able to stay in, because heaven forbid if a kid, because she's still 19, heaven forbid. I would say heaven forbid a 19-year-old had to work 12 hours last night, but I can't say anything because she came in this morning to see me at the radio station. So, I give her credit.
Thanks, Meggin.
But yeah, I mean, but again, there's a lot of things that we on the show that we just assume people have experience with, and so I'm glad that we got some of these questions out. I think if she would have stayed around, there was a couple more questions. For instance, and we like to talk on this subject a lot, but how do you lower and fix your heating bills and cooling bills? So I'll ask that question for her. So Randy, if you were telling Meggin this, as a young adult, maybe not necessarily a homeowner or maybe a first time homeowner, what are some of the easier fixes? Like, in other words, what's some Band-Aids you could put on for lowering and your heating / cooling bills?
Well, in the wintertime, plastic over the windows is a quick fix that doesn't cost a lot. But then an expensive fix is to make sure you caulk, or, let's say a lot of windows, even though they were installed correctly, they might not have put the insulation around. So a true fix would be take your trim off, check your insulation, and I would go back with foam over regular bad insulation and stuff it in, because the only thing you're doing when you're stuffing foam is you're compressing it. You're losing the R value of it anyhow. Okay,
right?
Because it has to have air in it to be for its R value to work. Okay, so remember, for every 1 inch you compress a bat, you lose 1 R value.
Right.
So see, back in the energy crisis, gas crisis and stuff in the 70s, we used to put R19 in a 3.5 inch wall.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, that R19 compressed in that wall was only R13. Okay. So we didn't accomplish anything. We made probably a little better soundproofing.
Right. Well, and pulling that trim off, if you're careful, you can pop that trim off without breaking it, and then just because it's just finish nails, and so you depending on if it was with an air gun or something, you can pop those nails off. Sometimes you can, if they're regular nails, you can use the same nails, but otherwise you just take a couple finishing nails and pop it back on. It's on and off.
One thing we do is we never push a nail back out. We pull it through the wood, okay? Because when you push it, try to drive your nail out so you can reuse it. You generally splinter the wood, yep. So now you have to get glue to repair it.
Right.
And you're going to have a wet cloth to wipe the excess glue off,
yep.
And then possibly restrain.
Yeah.
And
the number one mistake when you are popping off trim, baseboard especially, is you take the pry bar. You got to work it. You got to work along the entire piece. You don't just start on one end and pry it all the way off, because what'll happen a lot of times, especially on baseboard, right, is if you're not at a stud, you'll go through the drywall. So what I like to do is just, like, for instance, on the trim, work at the top or the bottom, figure out which way you want to start first, and get it a little loose, get up in the middle, then get to the top and get it a little loose. And then once everything is a little loose, in other words, you're working it all in sequence rather than just popping it from the bottom and pulling it out.
Yeah, and another thing too is, when you're in a house and you're doing that, make sure you take your time. Use a chisel or a flat, pry bar,
yep.
a thin one,
yep.
so you're not damaging the wood underneath that you're prying. Okay.
Yep.
A lot of people don't take that into consideration, and then they break it. Well, one thing that I dislike about the newer materials today is that the growth rings are so large on them that now when you go back with new stuff, see, we always glue all of our trim together now.
Yep.
We've been doing that now for about 18 years, and and we've actually seen it, even though we've glued it, and we've seen it separate 4 or 5 years down the road where the wood has shrunk up. Okay, so make sure you buy your trim, you acclimate it to the area before you install it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, acclimation of any kind of wood product, right,
Yep.
is key, and we see that. I mean, wood floors, for instance. I'm going to jump on that because I love wood floors, and if you don't acclimate that wood, then you're going to have problems, and that's something that I think gets overlooked a lot, or it gets pushed a lot, rushed, if you will. So anyway, but that's it's all good stuff. So hopefully it helped out some listeners out there. Randy, we got a few seconds left. Of course, everyone should get on over to the VFW and see you, right?
Yep, come on.
So it's just good.
We appreciate everybody coming out
So
and supporting the veterans.
That's it. Get on over there for the monthly breakfast, and it'll be good stuff. So Randy, enjoy cooking. Say hello, and don't forget, if you get a picture of Randy out in the wild today, send it to me, and I will mail you a sticker. How about that?
Yeah, and I still got my winter wool on, so.
All right. Well, there you go, Randy in the wild. Thanks for listening to us. Happy Saturday, and we'll put this up on the podcast so you can share it with friends. So the link will be up on the Facebook page in just a little bit. So, Randy, hope you have fun this week, and don't blow away today. And other than that, enjoy, man. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah, you be careful going out of town.
That's it. Heading to Charlotte to watch some soccer, baby. So, all right. We'll talk to you later. Take it easy, man. See you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast edition of All About Home Construction. We want to thank Skipper, Dave, and Bill for supporting the show. If you're enjoying this episode and you want to help us by creating some more awesome content, there are a few ways you can show your support. Subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. This actually helps us reach new listeners and climb the charts. And please share this episode with your friends and family. Word of mouth is always the best kind of advertising. You can support us directly through our page on Spotify. The links are in the show notes. Thanks for listening to us.